So today we are with Stephen Mitchell from SQCDP. I understand, Steve, you like being called Mitch, don't you?
Yes, yeah, it's all to do with my brother-in-law being called Stephen as well, so it's just stuck for the last 20 years or so.
Right. But actually, just for the people obviously watching, your name on actually like LinkedIn just say is Stephen Mitchell, isn't it?
Yeah, Stephen Mitchell, you'll see me right there somewhere, top of the list, hopefully.
Great. So SQCDP, what does SQCDP stand
Oh, that critical question. So it's quite a straightforward one. I think it's a mnemonic. It's safety, quality, cost, delivery, and people. And it's based around the paper visual management system used throughout industry and throughout factories to measure those five things. So if you're measuring safety, then you can stay on top of safety. Quality goes without saying. Right first time, quarantines, rejects, the reasons and the categories for those. Your costs a bit of a bracket around those unplanned downtimes and machinery breakdowns to control and manage through your manufacturing plant. Delivery is about on-time delivery, is about knowing your targets and knowing where you are in relation to them, and staying on top of them. And then people is about really underscoring all of those other metrics with the number of people that are actually being deployed against different production lines, different processes. And then again, that comes back into cost when you think everybody has a cost to the cost of the final product.
Yeah. Okay. That's great explanation. Great explanation. So as part of obviously this scheme, your kind of customers, who are they? Are they kind of bigger clients? Are they smaller clients?
Get on top of where the costs are. So they're trying to go digital, but they might not even have paper systems. There might be really early days, no lean, no operational excellence managers or continuous improvement managers in those businesses, and they need to make a leap. They've recognised that. And then there are other businesses where they work 24-hour shifts, 7 days a week. They have departments and sort of 200, 250 employees, and they recognise the pain of paper systems and the old manufacturing systems of SQCDP with visual management and the manual effort required to maintain it, where they want to improve and earn those man hours back so that they can deploy them against improvement activities and so on.
Okay. So if you was to kind of obviously choose kind of customers, do you go straight for these large customers, or who's your ideal? Who's your ideal? Are they kind of
So
quick turnarounds and
um, a packing shelf and seeing what's ready to be dispatched to customers. They've got that visibility all the way through that process, so they can be quite quick to adopt, which is great. But the larger businesses is where I see a bigger impact because they're discovering all of these different categories of waste that have been hidden in the poor data systems and whatever processes they've had around spreadsheet management and Billy's spreadsheet and then Richard's spreadsheet and then Mitch's spreadsheet, all trying to achieve the same thing in different areas of a factory. They make a leap straight away that they've earned that time back, and now they're starting to work together with their reviews and tier management to start actioning the problems that they've discovered. So that's it's really great to see in the larger customers.
okay? So for me, obviously, a lot of smaller businesses, they're always looking obviously to try and save money, make money. So as your kind of software, is it kind of a one-off fee, or is it monthly, a subscription, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we operate with a monthly subscription, which makes it just very simple. We've got a price tier which is low for the low data usage customers, a medium tier for those that require a little bit more data month to month, and then a high bracket which essentially takes the roof off for these larger customers, which means there is no limit on the amount of data that they can enter into the system, the number of users that they can have in the system, and it's just a site license for normally a period of a year, but we're now starting to get people talk about multi-year contracts as they recognise they want to fix prices and ensure that they're getting value over a longer period of time as part of that culture change. So it's very simple to adopt. A free trial, do a month, fall in love with the product, recognize where your first opportunities are, and then people on board from there and scale within the organization with no limitation really on how far they can put it. Everywhere they've got a spreadsheet, a bad paper system, lack of clarity, we want them to get it into those corners of the business where it can have the biggest impact and have no restrictions.
So since you're like, so you get a lot of these businesses to kind of drop and be paperless, are you kind of against like you using paper questions?
I'm the worst. I'm actually the worst. I like to print me kind of daily diary out, sort of old school in that, and then I cover it with handwriting, and so I still use a lot of notes myself. But when I flip to kind of speaking to customers, I talk about the value of not having those things because everything's digitized in the software. We type other bits of paper floating around the factory floor, and somebody's borrowed the sheet from there to go to there. Somebody who's updating the spreadsheet hasn't brought it back. Where are the last 5 days of audits? So I'm probably the worst example of that. But at the same time, I advocate because I see it so directly when I see every customer that has these challenges and then remedies them with our product.
I was going to say, you're up north, aren't you? You're based up north. So
Yes, for my sins, and you know it's very subtle, my accent. I know I sometimes try and get away with it, but it often does carry through. So yeah, I've worked in factories in the northeast for the last 30 years, and we're situated here. This is where we've got kind of our headquarters in the centre of Newcastle. And again, we've travelled in the northeast to go to certain customers and trial and learn from them, and certainly to give our engineers and our developers a bit of boots on the ground experience. But we're dealing with companies in the Midlands, southeast. We've got sort of Northern Ireland and Scotland. So the product, it can be deployed regionally based on the way that we deploy it from those trial periods and onboarding, where customers do a lot of self-serve. The engineers have been very, very good from taking the very early versions of our features and functionality to now the point where customers, we can hand it off and allow them to just take a run at things and it be intuitive. So that's what's allowing us to deploy in areas without getting to the customer and ultimately getting in the customer's way. They can do it themselves. You know, they get their elbows out and say, "I've got this. I'm the works engineer here. I'm the production manager. I've got exactly the skills to do this. Just help me when I ask." And that's we're a bit now reactive to that rather than being proactive and stepping in. We've recognised the change in the product and then making that change for ourselves, and the customers seem to be enjoying it.
Good. So you obviously you offer quite a lot of that help and guidance as well for your software.
Yeah. Alongside the SaaS, so it's not it's a monthly cost, but we don't just dump it on customers and on there. We do weekly meetings and reviews during the onboarding period. We do a monthly maturity review so that we can see which parts of the system are being used and utilised. We've got screens and configuration that we then share with the customers to show how rapidly they're moving, and we can ask about their culture challenges and what pace is right for them, all with the intention of each customer maximising the impact of their product. So we, for example, we can see changes in quality control. We can see increased reporting on safety. We can certainly see target and actual in the delivery sense of which departments are delivering and where management are putting effort through the action management that we have in the system. So we stick around, and that's part of kind of our first year contract, is that we ensure that there's some configuration time, those hours are built in, and we're helping the customers to get the most out of the system as a standardized product, but with the options and the opportunities to ensure that the screens are there that work for them.
Right. So is it normally like a phone call, you're on the end of the phone, or Teams, or would you go and visit these as well?
Yeah, we've got a help desk system, so people can get us through our website. Again, there's a kind of special link that isn't visible to the world, but customers get that, and that allows them to get into our ticket system, and then from that ticket system, there's a team that deal with those day to day, so that we're always there, we're always available, and touch wood, we've had no downtimes, no outages, we've had no urgent screamers, which is great. I'm sure they'll come, but we'll deal with those as they do, and customers will always have access to us.
So I've seen obviously your Manufacturers Hub profile. I'm obviously on it quite a lot. Obviously, when I'm trying to post about you, but you've got the app. So where can you get this app? Is it downloaded from the website? Is it from an app store? Or?
Yeah, so it's essentially a customer will make a query, and that'll come through to us, and then we'll do the outreach, and we'll have an initial call. We'll run a product demo, and then we'll issue them with with their web link, which allows them to download the app, put it into the different browser environments that they want, or on the desktops, and situate it as an app in mobile devices or tablets and so on. So we avoid the app store because we're at this stage where we're still growing, and there's a lot of cost then goes in there. So we manage security locally with their IT teams. We go through our white papers. We go through all of the sort of deployment protocols and site guidance to ensure that all that's allowed for, which means essentially it's very, very quick to deploy.
So is there had many challenges back from your customers about obviously setting it up, or
Not really. I think the challenge I've faced is being too present in some of the customer sites where we've hung around a bit too long. It's people want to get autonomous because we've created the front end and the user interfaces to be really intuitive, supportive of frontline operators and factory workers who very quickly can get it, and they're giving you the eyes saying you need to back off. So we've never had a frustration or a challenge apart from it's time to step back. And I think again that's where it now becomes the let's step back, but let's not go too far. Let's ensure there's awareness and visibility, and we'll have chatbots and so on through the app and through the software that allow us to stay present, but we're always kind of just testing with them as well to ensure that frontline worker to team leader to factory manager, everybody's feeling that they've got an interface directly with us and can get some queries away.
Yeah, I say some people they just like to just get on with it. I'll try it myself. If I have any issues, I'll contact you, and if not, I'll see how I get on.
Yeah, and if I was to say, that is the kind of spirit that I'm seeing more often, and I think it comes from the fact that people are frustrated with whatever they have, and that's why they've reached out. That's why they've got in touch with us. They're the people that are telling me to say they've got a 30-day spreadsheet that they update every month, pages and pages of data, thousands of data points, and then they have to scrap that spreadsheet because the next month is on an independent one. So they can't join them together. They haven't got SharePoint or database working for them. So they find it very difficult, and that becomes addressed very early on. And I think that's where the people who are on those demos recognise how we fit their problem case.
I was going to say, you've worked obviously quite a few places. So where did you come up with starting?
So yeah, working a few places now. Started my career at Nestle actually, as an apprentice electrician, sort of some 30 or so years ago. And as I progressed through Nestle before I made career moves, I had my first interaction with a continuous improvement team. I think it was a placeholder. There wasn't quite a role for me in the different departments or on shifts, and I was not stuck into a team, but I had the opportunity to join a continuous improvement team, and it was all about paper forms, spreadsheet work, and visual management in order to understand where the bottlenecks were in the factory and where those challenges were. Roll forward again those 30 years, I was at BAE Systems in a fabulous factory that makes great products, but had paper systems and spreadsheets and visual management that was really hard to maintain, really tricky for everyone, really inconsistent, and it meant that it was the same as 30 years, a 30-year-old problem in my mind. And I was sort of in the organisation finding that every day when we would have a review, some of the information hadn't made its way from those paper forms through the team leader, through the spreadsheet, to the visual management to cue that something was needed. And it felt, so is probably the right thing to say publicly, it felt like it was always Mitch, can you take a look at that with your team, because we're not quite sure why we didn't make the target, or we're not sure what the quality problem was. And when we would inevitably redeploy the team and work towards those things, I would have frustrated engineers talk about materials not being available from the stores, and that was why the machine was down for 6 hours. Or there were quality rejects and they were waiting for a member of the quality team to sign off, and they couldn't get the machine going until it had that first off sign off. Great process, but so inefficient. And it was frustrating to the team who would obviously deployed against the wrong work. But it was frustrating in those reviews that the production managers weren't aware of this information as well. So nobody was really addressing some of the root causes that were hidden in this paperwork, because of course the operators were always doing their job and could be trusted. They would give you the story, and of course they're frustrated as well. They're saying, well, nothing gets fixed around here, or it's more, why do I have to tell you for 3 days? And that was what led me to kind of just then sit in the old coffee shop on the way into work and get a large latte, sit in Costa and learn how to do a bit of web development to create an app that at least the operators could use, and then everybody in real time would have that same information. And it took me a while. It took me a few coffees, it's fair to say. And some of that was about finding the product and the intent of the product, which was to essentially connect that workforce and then make it usable. And I was fortunately good enough to do that, where the production manager took a look at it and said, let's deploy it, let's do some trials. And then the factory manager, who was fabulous at sort of engaging the size of this test and what we would be able to prove, and allowed some of that in the factory. So we got to prove the very first MVP. We couldn't deploy it because we were in a very special business, and very hierarchical IT structures that meant there was no real IT resource to do a deployment. But the recognition was that this was a tool for those factory workers, and it connected them all and it solved the problem. So it went beyond that to say, well, okay, let's see if there are other factories that have, is the maintenance manager suffering the same as me with a big long action list every day? Does it take a long time to resolve quality problems or manufacturing problems? And as I moved jobs, actually, I went to another factory and found the same challenges were there, which gave the confidence to start exploring how we could build this product further and create the software that we have today now. And I was fortunate to find an accelerator that helped me build SQCDP in the first instance, and then take it on through customer testing and have it ready as it is today.
Yeah. So you wouldn't have a trial with these businesses, without having that trial at the first time, you wouldn't necessarily be here where you are today, would you? So
yeah, it was a bit of a leap of faith. I suppose I knew I had a problem, and I knew the solution couldn't be another spreadsheet, because the problem was getting people to do it, which nobody was doing out of devilment, or not because they wanted the factory to be successful. It was just other priorities in the day. Staff not arriving on time, product not being there on time, work in progress being in the wrong location, all the team leader challenges that meant the paperwork, everywhere. You're the same, Richard. The paperwork sits until the very end, but then unless you hustle for the daily meeting and get it right and then really understand it, it sort of gets lost. So it was a question that we could find our way to that from those trials, that it works, but how do we make it easy to adopt?
no, it's great. Obviously, it's great as it's developing as well, isn't it? So do you find that it's developing more, even when you're seeing smaller businesses or the bigger businesses, or is there a slight difference?
We find something new, or a screen that will really work, or a workflow that really works for customers in quality control, for managing quarantine, for then escalating if that quarantine stock hasn't been touched, or after it's been deployed to Richard, it'll then bounce to me and so on. They go back into product. And I would say they're not necessarily brand new things that industry hasn't got in other products or elsewhere, but we're kind of finding the use case and making them available to these people who I believe they're certainly underserved with the paperwork and spreadsheets. I'm not sure how much work that does for the real people in a factory, but these tools work for those guys, and it empowers them very much. And allows them to see, well, how long does it take for a manager to respond? How long does it take for an engineer to get here? And how are we achieving our targets day to day? From make readies and setups and so on. Everybody's able to really examine it in their own way and get the most from the system. So it's built for the team.
And you can just tailor it to anyone, really, can't you?
Yeah, we core product. We talk about product market fit, which is. I suppose it's always a little bit further away. You think you're there, and then you find, oh no, we need to do this. But certainly product market fit is where we start, and anything that is a little bit custom or a little bit tailored we get to consider, well, actually, is that just the development of the core product and making it a little bit better for everybody? So it feels like we could be there, but again, as we arrive with the next 20 or 30 customers, I'm sure we'll learn an incredible amount from their use cases, but we'll build it back in, and that helps to make the product even more effective.
Is all the like, tools already in there, or is it kind of like they all kind of grayed out for certain businesses, or anyone can use anything?
No, we start with everything packed in there, and it's not a set of like cost up enhancements and features, So we've God, I have to suck it up now, but I'm going to say the word. But we've integrated some artificial intelligence in there, and it's the buzzword of AI, and it sort of like feels a little bit cookie, and you want to not try and use that as leverage, but we've built certain tools in that help people examine all of the data that's in their system. So that SQCDP board of old that's line graphs and charts and Paretos, we can go a little bit beyond that and ask AI to say, what does all this mean? What should we work on today? And then we get to say, by the way, I'm the maintenance manager. Tell me what I should be doing or where the problems have been in the last 24 hours. And finding that voice means that the maintenance manager gets to his decisions quicker. The operations manager, the same. The handovers, again, from multiple shift handovers that have been done from operator to operator on different machinery, assets, products. It all comes in and it gets examined to say, this is where there's a tough time. These are your reds. This is where you need some management activity and to put some effort to. So we're kind of using those kind of features now throughout the product, because it just enhances everything and reinforces why humans make the decisions. Ultimately, it's empowering the people.
So obviously you mentioned BAE, you mentioned Nestle. So are your main kind of customers in food or aerospace, or?
There's really it's not a one size fits all, but we're finding use case by use cases that the product can fit and work in those areas, which means there's nobody excluded. So picking it up and saying, well, Smart Factory will cost me this in terms of time to put a solution in on a production line. It will cost me this in pounds, shillings, and pence for hardware. It'll cost me this in terms of the downtime and the stock build. The alternative of deploying us as a layer above your paperwork and then removing the paperwork with zero impact on downtime, with zero impact on stock build, and at a low accessible price point, means that we can put ourselves and place ourselves there, which means that people can try it and see if it fits their use case. There are a lot of different factories, and a lot have lean, and a lot haven't lean, but are wanting to work towards it on a competitive basis. So each time we see a deployment, we just watch the numbers in our morning meeting and see how many shifts are going through and how many problems are being identified and then addressed, which becomes the real satisfaction. Is ultimately the mission, if you like, is to make a product like ours accessible for people who can do so much better when they've got that data in front of them. I think it's a real thing to say, is that if everybody's presented with the data in the right format, we would probably all make similar decisions around where to spend time and what issues to address, and that can't do anything other than make the businesses more efficient and give them more on their bottom line that they can invest back into their workforce and products and so on. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it.
Yeah. So if people wanted to find you, obviously, I know obviously you're on Manufacturers, you're on LinkedIn. Are you any part of any other organisations or associations or groups?
No, we've avoided that. We've gone into this just organic growth. I think this through Manufacturers Hub and bringing those contacts through, and then that gets a contact form, and then that brings it into our system and so on. But we get a lot of LinkedIn messages when people just identify from maybe a thought leadership post or a customer testimonial or sharing some feedback, is people are coming from those areas, and that's how we're just handling things in. The biggest amount of automation so far is through Manufacturers Hub, which again, it drives traffic to the website and people get to look around and go, all right, okay, is it for me? People can find me in those locations typically. You
Do
know,
many events, anything like that? Do you do many events or local
we've
events?
done a few networking events. We've done Advanced Manufacturing Forum. We've done Northeast Automotive Alliance. We did Smart Factory Expo, and again, so we're just bringing those contacts from there and then seeing them through. But I suppose the real approach we're trying to take now is just managing these inbound queries and seeing them through, ensuring everybody has a nice quick sales cycle, and then essentially as they're on board at a trial, we can build them through, because soon we'll have to recognize that we need to grow and we need to kind of upscale a little for those volumes. So it's about understanding what that onboarding traffic is and how best to handle it as that starts to scale. But we are seeing more queries come again. It's all through that visibility. And of course I'm being encouraged by sort of some of the marketing mentors to talk about things more, and even be kind of, in podcasts. And I'm very grateful to be here today, because hopefully people will see this kind of thing and say, well, it's zero risk. Let's give it a try, and I think that'll drive it into the market, which allows people to get better, which is again essentially what we're trying to do. Yes, we're commercially minded, but it's about the people. We only need to make small margins to scale and to allow the numbers to then drop back into the product and reduce our prices. So it's a bit of a noble quest. But yeah, the inbounds are what we're managing primarily.
Obviously, keep growing. It's best to, see, I think, is to chat and actually have, like, they can see you, they can see you on the podcast, and a lot of people I find obviously doing posts and things. The words, no one really wants to see words so much. It's videos and it's pictures, and they engage so much more. So yeah, doing things like this, the podcast as well. At least people can understand who you are and see you as a person.
Yeah, it's great. I think, yeah, but people picking up the website might not see that kind of thing, like the who, where did this start, what's it for, who's it for. But I suppose you've invited it with the question. But I'm just from that factory environment. I'm not this huge sales guy. I'm not particularly commercially driven, which I'm sure shareholders will see as my flaw, of course. But it is entirely so that it's addressing a problem that I see so many people having in factories, that we've got a known solution for now. So we've built to that, and now it's about sharing that and saying, get better. Unfortunately, in my career, I've been made redundant twice, it's not very nice. And both times it was because the factories weren't competitive, and at the end of the business time, it couldn't get lean quickly enough. It couldn't be efficient to try and prove the numbers to say invest back in our business. I don't want That's not very nice. I don't want other businesses to only wake up when it's a bit too late. Competitors have got an edge. They've adopted AI. They've adopted technologies. They're going through a digitization journey, and that's allowing them and enabling the team to work together as a high performing team and work with lean. I'd encourage kind of manufacturers at whatever stage they are commercially. They might still be making profit month to month, year to year, but it is about digitizing and understanding where your waste is and where your problems are at that point, because you can get better and you can be ahead, and your competitors are there even if you don't know they're there. So, that's my lived experience. So I don't wish that on anyone, particularly like UK manufacturing. Although you can share that to anybody. I want manufacturing to be competitive, but people to just be making the right decisions whilst they're at work, and be really engaged with each other because they're all aligned.
But there's so many businesses out there as well. There's more than enough work for everyone. There's 100,000 plus manufacturers in the UK, obviously. So there's more than enough for everyone on there.
Absolutely, I think that it's sort of like that's like UK.com, isn't it? You want the UK to be successful. Things are hard around here right now. Everybody's managing budgets. Everything's tight. Whether it's your domestic setting at home, and people looking through this upcoming winter, what are the bills going to be, and are we having a holiday next year, and making those decisions. Certainly back in to industry, where should we hire those hires for that department? Should we invest in that product? It's an absolute enabler if those businesses are profitable, and that's all I wish for, is that industry's healthy and it's being competitive, and then it's pushing the barriers, and it's asking for more from people like us, from you connecting different manufacturers to solution providers, and we just happen to be one of those potential solution providers, and being connected to the right people allows them to go and do their job. That's what I wish for, is that go and do your job, do it really well, do it efficiently, have an impact in your community with your workforce, with the engagement. That's a great place to be. And it feels like we're not there now, and I'd like to think that we enable a bit of that and help people get along that path to being the factories of the future and where they can really be.
Is there anything you want to add to this about to any people listening to the podcast?
Or seeing their in terms of the 6 manufacturing losses, the 7 wastes, and then engaging that team on top of that and being enabled to have good effective reviews. To maybe just take a look and then be in touch with us, and we'll show you some of the test data. We'll show you where maybe in similar parts of the industry, people just like them are deploying the product and are being successful. Because I think that's the not the convincer, that's probably the wrong word. I'm certainly not sales driven, but I think that's what allows people to be confident that they can find a solution with us. And I would encourage them to do that, because the impact tends to come in very, very quickly within just a number of weeks. People are changing that performance, and that's the most satisfying thing to see for me. So if anybody's on the fence or is looking at real high costs, real challenging smart factory, know they need to change, take a look in this box and then decide from there, because it should be risk-free for you. It's just a bit of time. But you probably discover a lot about yourself and your own capability to deploy such a solution, these guys get to be the heroes in their factories. And I've always wanted to say it, but all I want to be is in the toolkit, and managers to come along and say, well, what did we do? How did we improve our performance? How did we get such high engagement? All we did was download that app, and it'll be so much more than that. We'll just be the little toolkit there. It will be that the team have done all of the work that they are enabled to do. They'll apply those lean skills. They'll improve their action management. And that's where the performance comes from. And I think that's what's then so empowering for those teams. And that's where I'd like us to be placed as a product, is that we enable that. And that's what we unlock. So yeah, that's going to be personally very satisfying. So the more people, the merrier. And yeah, somebody gets to say that back to me one day.
Is there anything you like, obviously, for future? Where is SQCDP heading for the future? Anything new?
Well, I suppose we're starting to see queries from other industries that maybe work still in slow time, and service industries where the query is there, and can we trial and could we adopt your product, because we want our team talking about safety. We want real safety engagement, and there's an absence of it. I want people to talk about product quality or job sign-off or audits and process safety. And it's a little bit new, but it's a slightly different vertical for us. And I think those other areas will creep in. They will be the right thing to do. Because if other people can be successful with the product, of course, why would I not want it? But I think that's where we want to just grow as a sort of enabler of different factories, from startup to larger corporate blue chip enterprise level organizations, that we're a part of their success. That will be fantastic, from entry level to sort of huge enterprises. But it's only there because we solve a problem very simply. And just to give you a kind of an example, there's one customer that I'll not name, but we came across them some 10 weeks ago and visited site on this occasion, because the local host in the northeast, and saw the amount of spreadsheet work that some of the managers and team leaders do every week. And it was something like, between 4 shifts, it was something like 60 hours a week just on data entry. And you look at the talents in the team, from engineering to quality engineer to CI manager, to production leads. It's not right that they're still doing those jobs. It was very basic, very repeatable, and it was just, they were losing time and they were frustrated. And again, fortunately, they're going through trials, and they're going to change. But it makes me recognise that there are still businesses out there that are living with this day to day, and there are individuals that are living with that in their job, rather than coming into work, having that AI generated daily report, being able to go to the morning meeting knowing exactly what the challenges are, what they need to do, and they're going in prepared, and it's an entirely different workplace shift. So those guys are still there, and maybe it's hidden. These guys were introduced through a networking event, so didn't know they had a problem.
Yeah.
But we did the maths on it and did a sort of return on investment calculation based on a sort of middle tier price for them, and it was just huge. It was just huge. It was like they were saving £300,000 a year in labour, never mind action management and what effect that has. So yeah, it's unreal. And I think every time I walk into a factory that's still paper driven and inefficient, I'm reminded by those sort of numbers that what that really conveys is all that bottom line cash is being lost in poor processes. So
Frustrating, isn't it? Frustrating, and you can help someone so much.
absolutely, yeah, and it's yeah, you kind of don't want to leave them without it. You want to help them get going as early as they can, because it's just a hidden impact. It's a hidden impact, but it'll make such a difference to them when they see such a simple product do so much work for them. So
yeah, and the amount of savings as well, isn't it? The savings is
yeah. So someone gets to tell their boss, I'm now working on this activity and this activity, and we're getting through more work, and we've solved these problems because they're being directed at them, they're being automated towards them, and then humans are in control again. They're not just doing a chug of a day, data entry, spreadsheet work, and by the time people look up and say, well, what do those numbers, what do those charts actually mean? Oh, I'm not sure. Haven't had time to look at that because I just have to fill in the report every week and then I move on. If you can win that time back, people start to understand what is going on. People start to take action that can be proactive. And I've seen that again and again and again because manufacturing's it's a tough old game and people know what they need to achieve. But if you can get them out of that beat up mode of not having time to do anything, they'll do all the right things. And I see that in a lot of our customers, that they've got great engineers, great talented operators, great talented managers who are changing their businesses themselves. So yeah, it's great to see, but it just feels like we're unlocking them, and it seems very, very, very quick as well. The change in people and the way that people are feeding back to us is that you can see they're going through a lot of change, but they're enjoying it.
Good. No, good. Amazing to hear more about it. Obviously, before I've read through the profile, I've read through your LinkedIn, I've read through what it's about, but actually to hear more about, rather than just about going paperless, there's so much more to it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's it's a story kind of someday down the road we get to tell maybe from that coffee shop off the A1. Hopefully to where kind of we're really demonstrating industry wide impact. Not for kind of ego reasons, but because what that'll mean to those industries and to the people working in those manufacturing sites when they've been maybe dealing with all that poor system and crud for so long, is that's what it'll represent. It'll represent, okay, there's great change. We've been like a bushfire, and then let's look at what's next. How do we empower these people to the next part of their career based on their last 2 years' performance? How do they move through new roles? How do they demonstrate that? How do we? I nearly gave away a feature there. How do we ensure that there's direct feedback between roles around where they can get better and be automatically coached, but pick a coach of their choice? We'll move to the next level. And again, every time it's about driving those teams and helping them to be the very best whilst they're at work, but making it easy as well. It shouldn't be a challenge.
Yes, you want everything as easy as possible, don't you? So it's been great to have you on, Mitch.
Thanks very much.
So it's been nice listening to everything you had to say, everything about obviously the business, where it started as well. It's just very passionate. You sound very passionate, non-stop.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah,
It's been
boundless
great
enthusiasm. Yeah,
it's good to hear obviously how passionate you are about helping these companies and how passionate you are about the software as well, and how it works for these businesses. So that's great. I say it's great to have you on, and we'll catch up as we are, and the podcast should hopefully be launching.
well, anytime. It's been
as well.
It's been my absolute pleasure. Thanks for the grilling. And I'll be pleased to come back and kind of report in any time. It's great talking to you, and thanks for Manufacturers Hub, sorry, for getting our name out there in these early days, because that's doing its job as well. So I'll be encouraging people to sign up and make sure they're part of your platform and making the most of things. And again, it's great to be involved. Thanks, Richard.